Hey guys, it's Matt here with Leisureland RV Center, home of the warranty forever. This week on Tips and Tricks, we're going to talk to you about LP safety. And if you stay tuned till the end of the video, I'll show you guys a quick trick you can do at home to test how healthy your LP system is. All right, guys, the first thing that we're going to talk to you about today is the proper protection when you're removing and installing your propane tanks. You're going to need a good set of chemical gloves and a good set of safety glasses. All right, guys, the reason we've got to wear good PPE when we're replacing out our tanks is because the liquid propane coming out of the valves when you remove the pigtails can definitely burn you. So you always want to ensure that the valves are in the fully off position before you remove anything. It's a smart idea to go ahead and purge the system inside the coach to ensure that you have no pressure on the lines. Once that is done, you can easily remove the pigtails. Now we can start our visual inspection of the tanks. Visually inspecting the tanks, we want to ensure there's no dents, rust, missing paint, anything like that that we're going to see around the tanks. Make sure that we don't have any rust or holes or anything like that. You know, the propane tanks look like they're in good shape. The next step is to look at the pigtails. This is probably the #1 place that you will find something broken. Usually dry cracking in these lines. These crimp fittings fail a lot of times, so just ensure that these look like they're in good operational order and that there's no cracking or anything. Last but not least, we can look inside the end of the propane tank here, and there's a small rubber seal in the end right here. We want to visually inspect those probably a couple times a year to make sure there's no dry cracking. And you'll of course see one on this other tank also. If you see any dry cracking here, take your propane tanks to a qualified person to replace the valves out. All right, guys. One of the things I want everybody to know about is when you're using your propane system, always ensure that the valves are in the fully opened or closed position. This ensures that the seal on the valve is not under pressure all the time and helps keep its life a lot longer. Next thing we're going to talk about is the automatic changeover regulator. One of the things you always want to do is make sure this regulator is installed pointing towards the coach backwards. This helps keep the water intrusion of the regulator down to a minimum, and it's what RVIA wants to have happen. Next thing we're going to talk about is this rubber flex line that's going to run down and through and into the underbelly. You want to once again check it for dry cracking, anything like that, any scuff marks, any chafe areas. And as you can see, this one wants to sit right down in a little tight spot where it can chafe. So we're going to want to tie that hose away from that area. Next thing you can do is take a little bit of soapy water, a couple of drops of Dawn and a quart of water works great. We can spray this hose down with it under pressure and ensure that this hose is not leaking anywhere. Spray the fittings down extremely well. And you can see there's no bubbling. You can also use this on all your LP fittings, at the tank, at the pigtails, to ensure that you have no leaks. Quick and easy thing that you guys can do. All right, guys, the next thing to inspect is going to be all of your hard lines. So all your hard lines are usually going to run inside your frame or just on the outside of the I-beam. Usually it's black iron, sometimes it's soft copper, and you're going to have fittings screwing the different sections together. I highly recommend any fittings that you can see, take your soapy water once a year, make sure you see no bubbling, and continue and repeat all the way down till you get to the opposite end of the LP lines. All right, guys, well, we're here at the end of the line. As you can see here, we're at the very end. We've got a couple of exposed soft copper lines, a couple of black iron fittings. Once again, take your soapy water, spray down all these fittings to ensure that you have no leaks with the system under pressure. Last but not least, usually at the very end of the line, you'll have a quick connect for your exterior grill. I always recommend making sure that the cap is in place. Do not spray any soapy water into the inside. This can cause some issues for you guys in the long run, so make sure this cap is always on when you're checking this for leaks. And these LP quick connects always have a manual valve on them. Just ensure that that valve is in the off position. You can check it for leaks by opening it, spraying down the outside of the fitting. You'll see no bubbling here, and then you can go ahead and close this valve back to ensure that the system is in operating position. All right, guys, as I promised at the end of the video, I'd show you a pretty neat little trick that would kind of show you the health of your LP regulator and LP system. So what you do is first come over to the stove, light the eye. You'll see the eye is lit. I will usually light all three of them when I do this, but one will work. So as you can see what the flames look like right now, you leave those running. I walk over to the furnace. I turn the furnace into the on position, turn it all the way up, and watch the flames. As the furnace lights, I should not see really any change in these flames. If I see the flames go down extremely low, I know I have a regulator problem. If I see the flames shoot up extremely high, I know I have a regulator problem. So it's just a quick, easy test to kind of tell you how your LP system is working while you're out and running. All right, guys, thanks for watching Leisureland RV Center's tips and tricks this week. If you liked the video, like us and subscribe to our channel. We'll look forward to seeing you guys here next week for a new tips and trick video. Don't forget about our website. We have a great website, a lot of information on there for you guys. Look forward to seeing you next week.